Sometimes the loudest truths in life are not spoken at all. They do not arrive in heated arguments or long speeches. They come in silence, in the quiet moments when words are withheld, when eyes do the speaking, when actions carry the weight of meaning. And in those moments, silence can pierce deeper than any sound ever could. This story is about a woman named Emily, a school teacher living in a small town just outside of Chicago. She was the kind of person who loved deeply, gave generously, and believed in the power of words. Her whole life had been built around teaching children the beauty of language, of reading, of expression. To Emily, words were everything. They could heal, inspire, and guide. But one chapter of her life would teach her something she had never imagined possible: that sometimes silence itself speaks louder than words ever could. Emily was married to a man named Daniel. Daniel was not cruel, but he was distant. He worked long hours at his corporate job, and when he came home, he carried the exhaustion of his day like a heavy coat. He wasn't unkind, just absent, as if his mind was always somewhere else. Emily tried in her own ways to bridge that gap. She would prepare his favorite meals. She would ask about his day. She would share stories from her classroom. Daniel would nod, sometimes smile faintly, and retreat into his laptop or the television. At first, Emily thought it was just a phase, the weariness of a man trying to climb the corporate ladder. But months stretched into years, and she found herself talking more to silence than to her husband. Every conversation felt one-sided, as if she were casting her words into a deep well that swallowed them whole, never sending an echo back. What broke her heart most wasn't the lack of romance, but the lack of presence. She had once believed that love lived in gestures, in shared laughter, in whispered words before sleep. But now, the house was filled with unspoken things, words unsaid, feelings unexpressed, and silence, heavy, suffocating silence. One evening, Emily sat across from Daniel at the dinner table. The only sound was the clinking of silverware against plates. She looked at him, wanting to ask, "Do you still see me? Do you still love me?" But something stopped her. She realized she already knew the answer. She realized his silence was speaking louder than any denial or reassurance he could have given. That night, she lay awake long after Daniel had fallen asleep. She stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy, her mind racing. She thought about all the times she had tried to rescue their marriage with words, all the letters she had written in journals she never showed him, all the conversations where she had poured her heart out, only to be met with a blank wall. And for the first time, she wondered, what if she stopped speaking? What if she let silence answer the questions her words never could? The turning point came 2 weeks later. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Emily had planned a small surprise for Daniel. She had bought tickets to a jazz concert, his favorite genre, something he used to love when they first met. She left the tickets on the kitchen counter with a handwritten note that said, "Let's go back to where we started." Daniel came home that evening, glanced at the tickets, and without a word, placed them back on the counter. He walked past her, muttering something about being too tired. Emily didn't argue. She didn't plead. She didn't ask why. She simply nodded, picked up the tickets, and placed them in the trash. That silence, her silence, was deafening. For the first time, Daniel noticed. He looked at her as if realizing something had shifted. The woman who had once filled the house with warmth, with conversation, with gentle attempts to hold them together, she had stopped. She wasn't angry. She wasn't dramatic. She was just quiet. Days passed, and Emily began to withdraw. She didn't stop caring. She simply stopped trying to be heard where she was not valued. She poured her energy into her students, her friends, and herself. She started painting again, something she had abandoned years ago. She joined a book club. She walked in the park alone, letting the crisp air remind her that she was still alive. Daniel noticed the change. At first, he assumed it was temporary, but as her silence deepened, he began to feel the weight of it. It wasn't the silence of resentment. It was the silence of someone who had given everything and realized there was nothing left to give. And that silence spoke to him louder than any of her words had before. One night, Daniel came home to find Emily sitting in the living room quietly reading. He sat down across from her and said, "Why don't you talk to me anymore?" She looked up, her eyes calm but distant, and replied softly, "Because silence told you what my words never could."